Okay, can people see images?
Yes, Lilli, and people might be muted, but yes, we can.
Okay, great. Okay, I'm gonna go to full screen.
You want to go to your view down in the left-hand corner, Lilli, I think. Yeah.
Oh, there.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, perfect, perfect. Okay. Whoop. Okay, I want to welcome everybody to, this is our first module. Some people had already been in the previous webinar, which was the introduction to holographic human. And this is Awaken Your Holographic Nature. And there we go. And in this module today, we're going to be covering what I call the transgenerational clearing and working with our epigenetics. And our epigenetics in terms of what is the imprinting that we have inherited on a soul level from our lineage and from other life experiences. So I just want to begin by introducing you to this next image, which is called the holographic human. And the understanding is that we are a matrix, that we're a fractal image, okay? The totality of our being is literally a fractal image of the wholeness of creation, the wholeness of life. And these layers of our matrix, and they are layers, and we'll go into them physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. These are the composites of these layers. And the intention of awakening, you know, is really to actualize our full capacity as humans and our full capacity as human beings as a collective species on planet Earth. And what does that really mean? And in order to move forward in actualizing on the soul level all of these components, there has to be a vitality, an integrity, a harmonic, almost synchronization of these different, I like to call them wormholes or portals that feed and communicate. They're the highway network of our physical and our subtle bodies between our personal and transpersonal. And that when we have that synchronization, that clarity that we have an infinite capacity to begin to actualize and bring online, and what I say is bring online, bring into a functioning reality some of these aspects that you think are, oh, they're very evolved. He's psychic, he's intuitive, he's got mathematical abilities, musical abilities, linguistic abilities, all these different aspects that are talents within different human beings, yet they're all within the realm of mastery and full actualization in the awakening of our holographic nature. And the frequency, love is the frequency, and I mean that as a universal energy. I'm not even going to define it as personal love or divine love, but from a more scientific perspective, the energetics of love, the frequency of love, which is a harmonic frequency that synchronizes all of those aspects of our holographic nature and is our passport to opening up to our multidimensional holographic nature and full potential. So all of these components, the holographic aspect of our nature, is a composite of all of these different layers. And within the physical, emotional, mental, psychic, spiritual, and these are terms that have been so used and almost cliche that they've lost their meaning. Yet within the physical, there's many dimensions. Within the emotional, there's many dimensions. Within the mental, there's many dimensions, and psychic and spiritual. So it's not just a flat plane of experience in either one of these human realms, but rather it's a field experience, which is a non-linear yet almost 360-degree kind of perspective of seeing yourself, experiencing yourself in these different capacities and realms. And it's not something you think about, yet it is all within the DNA. The DNA is our signature, okay? Just like love is the frequency that allows that DNA signature to traverse the whole universe. It is the signature that defines the human species. And so today we're going to be talking very specifically and starting this first module with understanding why transgenerational clearing is the first place, in my opinion, to start with, because it's the place where nature materializes us. So awakening the holographic nature, or awakening your holographic humanness, is a vibratory journey into the mystical dimensions of all those components that make your holographic totality. That when we're born, we are born out of a realm that is undefinable, that is pure energy, pure existence, light, consciousness. And as we choose, and I like to say we choose, and you can believe this or not. These are my opinions, my insights, and I'm not attached to them. They're evolving process. But when we come through the birth canal and we start to materialize as a result of the sperm and the egg of a mother-father principle coming together, that ignites and gives the signal, for our soul to begin to incarnate and materialize in this dimension. So we're moving from a transpersonal, non-linear, non-definable dimension into our journey into 3D reality that becomes very personal and imprinting. So this holographic process is a process getting back to that transpersonal level of our being, the hue. Okay, and the hue is considered in world religions as one of the originating sound. In Hindu tradition, they say it's the Om. In other world traditions, they say it's the hum, and Om is the hum too. So the hum behind all creation, the originating sound, it's the sound that is the vibration of the God intelligence in all things. It's the word or the vibration that is literally before the light. It is the name of the nameless. It just is. So just keep that in mind, and you can ponder that and see where it takes you. So healing our timelines. It's a transpersonal journey in understanding our epigenetics and bioenergy imprinting. Epigenetics is a fairly new word because in the last couple of decades, we've fully identified the human genome and are beginning to understand what programs human beings. So if you look in utero, so DNA is the hardware. Genes are the hardware. Yet there is software, just like a computer system, that runs the program, along the lines of the DNA. And it starts in utero. So in utero, you're picking up the 3D conditioning of first your mother, whether you've known your mother or not, but the mother and mother principle starts at that very primordial originating level where the beliefs, the conditioning, the emotions, the feelings, the thoughts, the patterns of thinking mind, perceptions, experiences, how we sense life, environment, drugs, food, aging, all of these are just imprinting aspects that shape who we are and start to program how we behave and who we are on that deep primordial level. And so I believe we have control over this, and we have the ability to begin to go towards taking responsibility and mastering these levels of our humanness and our experience so that we can rise above and move out of the personalization and conditioning that our collective humanity has gotten us into a freer state of dynamic, creative being. So let's go a little bit more into what that means, because I'm going to bring this theory into some practical ways to address those issues. So the DNA is our own information technology. And I'm just using these as metaphors, but we have really mimicked technology and computers and databasing and sourcing. It's mirroring how consciousness functions. And so the DNA holds the potential for our species. And right now, we're using about 10% of the capacity of our DNA as we've been able to identify it. And that 10% is what gives us certain characteristics and traits in our species, our race, our style of speaking, our cultural dispositions, the way we think, believe. 90% of the DNA has been coined as junk. In other words, useless and undefinable. However, what they're beginning to find, and what I firmly believe, is that the codes, and I will say consciousness codes, because it's consciousness as a higher vibratory state that awakens and activates our human capacity as a species on planet Earth. So this 90% is latent. It hasn't been actualized yet. It's dormant and sleeping. Yet I believe with a lot of the advancement of the use of the intelligence of nature, and prayer techniques or styles, meditation techniques and styles, certain eating high vibrational foods and giving yourself high vibrational, what I call holographic food, so that it supports the refinement of these dimensions of our human nature, the refinement of our physiology, the refinement of our emotions, the refinement of our intelligence, so that we can bring greater capacity of that. I mean, it was thought that, we had an IQ, and that's pretty much IQ stayed with us all our life. That, in my experience and perspective, is completely untrue. That we can totally change the level of our intelligence and our own capacity to be creative geniuses and begin to move in those higher dimensions of human actualization. And you've all heard this over and over and over again, but love is the frequency, and that is scientifically proven at this point in time. An organization, the Heart Math Organization, really has concluded and made many studies about, they call it coherent emotion. And coherent emotion, literally creating the emotion of, like, where there is no anger, there is no hostility, there is no disappointment, irritability. It's a completely harmonic experience of peace and love as a vibratory state of your being. And that vibratory state of love is what attunes the heart, because the heart is, and that will be in our next module, but the heart is the central processing unit. It processes all the information one way or another, whether it polarizes it or unifies it into a field of acceptance and a higher order of understanding and intelligence. So love attunes, synchronizes, and creates a radiant, harmonic heart frequency that sings the song and speaks to the DNA. And the DNA then, which is, I like to call it, like, it's the antenna that sends the information of who you are as an individuated entity into the universe, into the physical dimension. And it unlocks frozen timelines. So when you lock on to coherent frequencies of love, acceptance, peace, and you can hold that frequency as a truth of your being in your heart, then the DNA acts as an antenna to unlock those frozen timelines that have been imprinted from past conditioning. And you can emerge as an example, as a model, as an evolving template that is shape-shifting into a transpersonal higher order of human intelligence. So transgenerational clearing is healing our timelines, and it's retrieving the energies that has been locked up and held in the past, so that you can bring yourself to a greater state of wholeness that will create a future that is much more beholding and reflective of that higher order of your potential. So transgenerational clearing is a process, and there's also formulas that I've created and vibrational formulas that will help to activate this process that we're talking about right now, so that your energy becomes free. Because when it's locked in self-doubt or questioning or disappointment, and I mean even sociological, which I hold personally, sociological disappointments, political disappointments, like that. So when we free the energy and we are not bound by the thinking mind and the analytical mind, we move to a place where the energy and the DNA itself, because the DNA is a self-replicating energy form, we become more self-sustaining energetically. You don't get drained, you don't get fatigued, you don't short circuit emotionally, short circuit mentally, like that. The energy becomes, you as a whole entity, you become more self-sustaining, self-regenerative, and that you can lock on and be fed directly from source. Okay. So what are the pathways? These are the pathways that I have found to awakening my human potential, my human nature, my holographic nature. And I call them holographic foods because these foods tap into the quantum forces of nature. They're beyond, they're direct sources of the Godhead. And so plants are like tapping the roots of consciousness. All plants, all life lives in a unified field, but particularly plants, because they have a coming and going cycle. They reflect, and because they have a blossoming, a blooming, a pinnacle, a zenith point where they become fully expressive in the flower aspect, that they are mirroring, they are fractal images of the unified field of consciousness that is your human potential. And we're going to go into some very specific ones. Herbs speak more on the biochemical, I call them biochemical messengers that support the physiology to be in a higher vibratory receptive state. If the physical body is not kept up, then the consciousness will not have optimum platform for downloading the light and intelligence of consciousness. So I like using as my first line of defense, line of cultivating consciousness, is botanicals and herbals. And I don't use them just for fixing issues that arise, like when I get a cold or an infection or a sore throat, or people will use them for headaches or high blood pressure because they don't want to take drugs. That is fantastic. But I really believe and feel and promote using simple herbs as highly concentrated, potent, holographic food that is going to feed you at a level where you are not going to get in common, even organically prepared concentrates and juices like that. I'm very fussy about that. You know, they have to be grown particularly, and I won't get into that, but I'm very fussy about the quality of the botanicals I use for that purpose, and that could be another presentation. The other level that we're going to be focusing on to a large extent today is the flower power, and I speak to the flower aspect of plants, because when a plant goes from the seed to all of its metamorphic stages, just like when you come in as a fetus, an embryo, and go through all of the metamorphosis of becoming an adult. And then when you're an adult, it's like you're at some peak of your performance, some peak expression of who you are. Okay, so when you go from the seed to the flower is the pinnacle of the expression of the totality of the intelligence held in that plant. And that plant holds consciousness. And every plant is a reflection of a human aspect that is you. It's just looking in the mirror and learning how to read, like they say, read the signature on the wall or the message on the wall. And that's what we're going to do today. Gems and gem elixirs. Again, I've made a line of gem elixirs that work with the chakras as a template to understand the human potential and dimensions, and also the template of the zodiac and understanding the composite of the zodiac as a holographic template, and the gems as a mechanism to integrate and awaken those different aspects of that template. So gems, I use Ayurvedic prescription, very clear, high-end, pure gems to make my elixirs. I had the good fortune of working with a gemologist who provided me, and I had purchased several of gems of that nature. So the elixirs really reflect very pure expressions of the world of gems. And gems hold they're the keepers of the ancient knowledge held on earth. They're the keepers of the intelligence that bridges terrestrial life with celestial life. And I'll get more into that. Also, ascension alchemy, M-state, exotic elements. We're not going to go into that today, but it's going to be mentioned in the future more. And scalar waves, our DNA technology. And that I have a whole chapter dedicated to scalar technology and understanding scalar waves in my book. But let's say scalar waves are something that occur naturally in nature. They're everywhere. Your thoughts are based on a scalar wave. Your thought can travel faster than the speed of light. It's not limited by time. Your DNA is a scalar wave. It's an infinitely replicating, self-sustaining information delivery system. And that's what a scalar wave is. It's an infinitely replicating wave. And when you use love, that transmits to the universe who you are as a human being. Because we're moving into an era where we're becoming so important on this planet, but in the context of our role as intelligent human beings in a greater galactic perspective. and how we are physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, sociologically, politically, all of these dimensions are critical and we're being asked to transmute them to a higher vibratory state of clarity. Okay. So why do I choose nature? And why has that been the path for me? I could have chosen path of, well, I've chosen many paths, but nature is the one that I'm comfortable with because I feel like it's common sense. Nature is infinite intelligence. It's God consciousness. It's infinite creativity. Nature is egoless. I'm not going to a psychotherapist, a person, a doctor, a healer, a naturopath, and having the persona imprinting me with their beliefs and constructs. And so I love that nature is an egoless state of being. Nature is evolutionary. It progressively ascends to higher orders and higher organizations. Nature is a living field of primal love. It is a unified field. And it's the bridge between the cosmic and the human. Nature is Hugh, and we are the man component, the woman component, bridging our God self with our human self so that they become one and the same. It's nature's direct, potent, powerful. It brings us right to the core of our essence of being, our soul. I did mention the herbs as messengers of the gods, and we touched upon the other ones. So jumping into how do we transmute these imprints that we've taken on and define us who we are personally, and what we believe about ourselves. The gem elixir that I chose for this is diamond. And diamond, the reason I chose this because it's a universal energy frequency that harmonizes with any of the other gem elixirs, any other therapies, any of the other color therapies that you might use. It's a universal clearing, cleansing, and positively amplifying your inner light, beauty, and truth. It also balances your polarity. It's like a whole brain functioning. It helps to balance left and right hemispheres of the brain so that you become more dexterous. I don't think I pronounced that right, but forgive my dyslexia. Dexterity, so that you can have the full range and the complements of the polarity or the wholeness of your brain and functioning. It also helps to cultivate the intelligence of the heart. And the heart is intelligence. We lose sometimes that intelligence because we get stuck in the emotional body, or we take on, for instance, one of my patterns has been in this lifetime, my mother had a big worry pattern, okay? So I have had a tendency to worry, okay? So you can see how these subtle imprints that occurred from in utero and can follow you around to varying degrees. So the first essence, and all of you will be receiving a formula of diamond, and a formula that will have all of these essences combined in the transgenerational clearing. Because I chose this group of essences because I think the synchrony and the coherence of these essences to liberate the imprinting is very powerful and very effective. So the first place to start is where you started, in the womb. And we do carry our mother and father energies and principles around with us. The mother archetype, whether she was nurturing or not, you know, however your mother expressed her female, feminine, motherhood nature or lack of that had an impact on us. And it's one of the impacts that I think that we are being asked to completely help to liberate ourselves from, is these two archetypes, because they're the archetypes. So they're the archetypes that do come out in all of our dynamics, relationships, and aspects of operating. So Mariposa Lily is the first one, and it's interesting. It grows oftentimes in rocky, barren soil, yet this exquisite, beautiful, very delicate flower emerges, and it helps to cultivate. And we're talking about edu healing, vibrational healing. It's educating the vibratory intelligence of your whole being, your whole holographic nature on all those levels. So it helps with the receptivity to physical and cosmic nourishment. So taking in nourishment from, all of a sudden that color across the room may speak to you in a different way, and just, you may be gaining appreciation for it, joy from it, nourishment from it. Also feeling a connection with a higher mother divine energy, a mother, a universal mother energy. So we're re-imprinting so that we can become fully mature. I believe we're kind of in an adolescent state collectively. And we're being asked to come to a fully mature state of claiming our own ability to reparent ourselves and be a divine mother for all beings. A caring, kind, loving, allowing, and receptive mother. Cultivate on a physical level, also in an emotional level. This essence helps to create positive connections. Now, whether your mother is a principal, is alive or has passed on, or whether it's been a positive, a mixed, or a completely dysfunctional relationship, what Mariposa Lily does, it helps to dissolve the bio-emotional toxins and help to resolve those issues that have created stresses in your lineage, not only from this biological imprinting, but from previous ones. Helps overcome feelings of abandonment, abuse, orphan states, alienation, like that. The other, obviously, is sunflower. The father principle. Mother, Father, God. Okay. And this is interesting because sunflower is literally a plant that worships the sun, the solar energy. It follows the sun in every course of its day. That's why it's called sunflower. But as a vibratory intelligence, it's imparting and gifting us with the signature, because these are just vibratory signatures that they have. And if we drink of that signature, that vibration, we're getting the nourishment of self-empowerment, because the sun is that radiant element that defines who we are as an individual, helps us to define our individuality, our radiant self, our solar self, our authenticity, and helps to harmonize and clear and resolve the relationship with the father principle. So issues, when you think of father as a guiding force, as a protection, as a solar energy that instills positivity and courage and strength and like that. So it helps when there's fear of responsibility, low self-esteem, or when there's arrogance, an overinflated ego, any kind of distortions. It helps to bring in the harmonic balance in that principle. Okay, transgenerational clearing. It all has to start with the heart chakra. The heart chakra, the central processing unit. And our job as awakening, evolving, holographic beings is to continue to devote ourselves to the feelings of cultivating unity and inclusive love, expanding the feeling of connectedness to ourself, to others, our environment, and the God principle, God force. Overcoming, it can be used to transmute anger, isolation, jealousy, alienation, toxic emotions. But most important, this essence, and just like herbs, I don't only encourage people to use these vibratory essences for reasons to correct problems, although those are great places to start, because that's an easy place, because we always tend to go, well, I have always felt doubtful. I can't seem to shake this doubt or this feeling of, needing to be right, or this argumentative nature, or whatever. You may feel like, wow, I'm really in a good place. I feel really great about where I am, and accepting and being vigilant about kindness and caring. And I feel like I belong to the family of humanity. These will always meet you where you are and take you to another level of vibratory upliftment, intelligence, and organization. These are an evolving, non-static, non-linear frequencies. So you can see how they all interface with our human reality. We're all in it. These are just, if you want to call them ET, they're not extraterrestrial, although they have some aspect to that, but they are terrestrial entities. Okay, they're not human entities, they're terrestrial entities that carry these frequencies that are in resonance with the human energy field. The other one, okay, so when you come in, when you want to, when we're shifting our personal story to a transpersonal state of non-attachment, walnut is a key one. It helps to liberate and free us from the past very specifically. I call it like a karmic link breaker. It helps us to let go and free us from the ancestral imprinting so that our soul can find its own unique destiny and individuation. Okay. It helps with any transition in life. Let's say you're moving or changing jobs, or you lost a loved one, or your daughter is leaving and going to college, or whatever the change is, the transition, there always is involving a letting go and a inviting in some new and unknown aspect. And walnut is really great for that, letting go of the past dependencies on people, places, things, so that you feel free. Wild oat, I call it the path to greater good. You can see how this is kind of painting a picture to help you on a soul level just be a free entity, not bound by your lineage. Even if you love your lineage, I'm not saying that, we come in and we have great parents and beautiful beings, but we're all individuating also. So wild oat helps you, I call it the fusion. It helps to fuse your personality, your individuated self, clarify your individuated, unique self with the purity and clarity of your soul being. So it cultivates and inspires you to express and get in touch with a deeper sense of your inner calling. And you may really know what you're all about in this, in your lifetime. You may have your destiny, your passion, your purpose very clearly outlined, yet there's always a deepening that can occur. And wild oat helps to align with a higher sense of discovering that expression of meaning and purpose. So it helps to overcome if there's a little decision-making, confusion, apathy, feeling like your activities are meaningless, worthless, unimportant. Wild oat helps to cultivate that sense of meaning. And the final essence that's going to be in the formula is called Joshua Tree. And you can kind of see all these crooked branches, yet it's one of those trees that grows for hundreds of years. So it really has a long lineage, and it's mirroring that fractal image that, yes, you can come through a very powerful lineage that is imprinting you and having hundreds of years of tradition and beliefs and faith like that. Yet you as a singularity, as an individual offshoot of the lineage, has the capacity to clearly find your own clear genetic expression. So it clears the generations of it clears your lineage of genetic stresses that you're holding unconsciously. Most of it is unconscious and held in the cellular memory. So Joshua Tree helps to clear the soul of any adverse patterns due to ethnic, religious, cultural, social, political, whatever programming that holds you back and limits who you are as a holographic being. transmutes dysfunction, unconscious habituations, repetitive destruction patterns, even alcohol, violence, addictions. You can sometimes find that those patterns reoccur in family structures. And you don't know why. It just, the mother, the father, it can go back many generations, just unresolved issues that get, you know, unloaded on us. So why awakening our holographic nature, and I'm wrapping it up now and we'll open it up for questions, is really we're at a junction, a turning point where third dimensional density is so dense, it's collapsing upon itself. And our only way really out is to elevate ourselves, our fields, our consciousness, so that we become impenetrable and invincible, because we're being bombarded with so much in the subtle psychic waves, bidding for our energy, our vitality, our belief, our faith. Everything is bidding for us. And so to maintain that inner core strength of invincibility and impenetrability, and to make that your auric field such a high vibration and a clear vibration that you become impenetrable by these third dimensional influences that are attempting to capture our nature, our humanness. So awakening our nature is to be a part of humanity's birth hatch, survival hatch, I feel, into the future of a benevolent society and species that embraces and cares and respects all humanity and human beings. Like that. Okay. Whoop. Let's see. Oh, right. Hold on. Can you, I'm going to unmute. Let's see. Unmute. Okay.
And Lilli, go back to your slide format.
Oh, okay. Okay, does anybody have any question? I just delivered a lot of information.
I have a comment, Lilli.
Comment, question, input. Great.
I just wanted to say that when I hear you talk about these different plants and these essences, it makes me just want to completely imbibe them. I can hardly wait to ingest this formula, because I feel like you give such an extraordinary and deep understanding of the capacity of these exquisite gifts that nature has given us. So I really want to thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Camille?
And I feel like it's a silly question, but maybe not. Once flower essence or whatever you're using transmutes a part of your past or whatever residue is it's transmuting, is it transmuted fully? Is it something that you revisit, or does it actually clear?
Oh, that's a fantastic question. As you start to use these vibrational formulas and intelligence, I like to say they meet you where you are. So in some cases, it might bring in, it's like, wow, I completely forgot that ever happened. Or you become aware of something new in who you are and how you function. In other, or it can be completely on an unconscious level and it just completely clears and dissolves. Ultimately, these vibrational tools, essences, will facilitate a dissolving of the distortions, okay? And because they're intelligent, I don't know what it's going to be. That's why I like nature, because nature determines what you need, because it's an interfacing with a pure intelligence with no agenda, you know, no desire to fix you in any particular way other than to bring you to a higher level of your greatness. So if there's distortions in your patterns, whether it is a physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, belief, religious, whatever, it's going to kind of bring your attention to that, and you'll start to notice, well, you know, you might have a little loosening up, I like to call it, around that. And sometimes it might be just like, wow, I'm going to completely forget and let go of that. It's like, and you just move on. And it can be, you know, dramatic. It can be subtle. It can be non-noticeable. And I do say, if you don't notice, don't worry, because it's happening. And when people start these, the first way that you know that it's happening is nature's so smart. It'll speak to you, it'll speak to your soul in your dreams. That's usually the first place that people will start to notice, because you're offline. Your thinking mind, your analytical, whatever, everything is offline, and you're in a whole nother range and state of reality, and where your soul's intelligence can speak to you more directly, and these vibratory intelligences can speak to you, because the language of the soul is not English. The language of the soul is vibratory. It's light, it's color, it's vibration, it's primordial, pre-linguistic, and these are, I call the essences wordless prayers. So they're gonna, you know, tell you how it's going to be. But I think it could be any of those. And what I say is, you're going to get the essences, and they'll last, maybe 2 to 3 weeks. They'll give you a really good experience of how you're going to feel. And it, depending on the remedy, let's say somebody had, like for instance, there was an individual, they said they had a lot of anger come up and they didn't want to take it anymore because it made them angry. Well, we can make adjustments, but it was purifying some of the anger. And so if you feel tired, just a little edgy, a little fuzzy, a little shift, like the first couple days, do not worry about that. That's part of the energy shift. And then all of a sudden, they stopped working. I don't feel anything. Just keep going, keep going, keep going, because the vibration is working deeper and deeper. It's just all of a sudden your thinking mind, your personality just doesn't have a big measurement of like, oh, wow, you know, that kind of thing.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Any other questions? And then I'm going to mention how to take them.
Lilli?
Yes.
At the beginning of the next session, can we hear from people, like what their experiences have been?
Yeah, I was thinking about that. What I think I'd like to do is maybe having a 15, 20 minute in case there's new people, well, that might be fine. Yes, I'll say yes to that because I do want to hear what people are experiencing and like that. I think it'll be really valuable. Also, these formulas, you're going to have this will start a process, and transgenerational clearing may be something that you use for a few months. And it's something, you know, I've been working with this formula since the 80s. And all of a sudden I'll realize it's like, oh, wow, I'm up against that kind of like, oh, this is my father's kind of fear of learning and fear of taking on something, some new kind of responsibility or action. My father was an immigrant and didn't speak English. And he had a lot of self-consciousness and inhibitions about living in this country and being immigrant. And so I recognize a lot of how he felt was in me. And so different times in my life, different times along the journey, I might say, you know, it might be good for me to use some of the transgenerational, and I'll use it for a few weeks, a month. So this process that we're going through is non-linear, you know, non-linear. It'll, you know, just track yourself. It's a process of tracking yourself and learning how to track your own holographic evolutionary evolution, because, you know, advanced species, and this is what we're being called into, a new order of functioning. And advanced species, number one, they don't have a thinking mind. They have a functioning intelligence. And it is living, this functioning intelligence is on a platform of the benevolent ones that we have the capacity to move into, peace and love. Okay, those are the two frequencies, the platform of higher intelligence functioning. The other aspect is, because they live in a pure state, and we have this capacity, is there's absolutely no agenda with any action. There's no agenda. It's like almost incomprehensible that you can operate from such a level of intelligence that doesn't involve any thinking whatsoever, any need to make a decision or a choice. That it's so, every life force element is such in an harmonic synchronization with the highest order of the collective in the love and the peace frequency. It's really amazing. So anyways, I got off a little bit there. I want to get back to how do you take these, because some of you, I've already got your remedies in the mail, and Jeff and Tracy, yours are in the mail and should arrive, I think, on Saturday. Camille, I'm going to get these out in the next couple days to you. The transgenerational flower combination remedy, I would like for you to take it 4 times a day. And if you, morning and evening is great, before bedtime is great, early in the morning before you get out the door and make your life happening is great, and any other times you can. If you want to speed up and want a more dramatic process, you can take it 5 times, 6 times, 7 times. The more you take it, sometimes the more intense, because it's the frequency that you take it, not the amount that you're taking. Frequency, education, wave form education. Okay, so about 4 times is the good middle ground. And use it till it's done. If you want to refill, that's great. If you want to participate in the next module, we'll have a new remedy that we'll be working with. You can take more than 1 remedy at a time. The diamond, I'm going to also, you can take it simultaneously with the essences, and you can take it anytime, at least 2 times, morning and evening, but I would suggest use it 4 times with the flowers. Okay? So, and if you have a question, don't hesitate to email me. I'm good with getting back to you within usually a day. If you haven't heard back, email again. That means it's in cyberspace somewhere. Let's see, what else? I think we're good for today. I feel like, you know, we downloaded a lot of information and energy, and may you be blessed. May it serve you in the greatest capacity of your own evolution, healing, and greatness. And please email me, let me know how you're doing, and if you'd like to participate in the next one. So if there aren't any other questions, I'll hold it open for a minute, and if there aren't, then we will seal this module. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you, everybody. Namaste.
Thank you, Lilli.
Namaste. Thank you, Lilli.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lilli.